As long as I live, I'll hear waterfalls and birds and wind sing. I'll interpret the rocks, learn the language of flood, storm, and the avalanche. I'll acquaint myself with the glaciers and wild gardens and get as near the heart of the world as I can. All my life, I've been growing fonder and fonder of wild places and wild creatures. Fortunately, around my native town of Dunbar by the stormy North Sea, there was no lack of wildness, though most of the land lay in smooth cultivation. The highest part of our playground back of the school commanded a view of the sea. All our school books were extravagantly illustrated with drawings of every kind of sailing vessel, and every boy owned some sort of craft whittled from a block of wood and trimmed with infinite pains. Sloops, schooners, brigs, and full-rigged ships, with their sails and string ropes properly adjusted and named for us by some old sailor. These precious toy craft with lead keels we learned to sail on a pond near the town. With the sails set at the proper angle to the wind, they made fast, straight voyages across the pond to boys on the other side, who readjusted the sails and started them back on the return voyages. Oftentimes, fleets of half a dozen or more were started together in exciting races. We never thought of playing truant. But after I was 5 or 6 years old, I ran away to the seashore or the fields most every Saturday, and every day in the school vacations, except Sundays, though solemnly warned that I must play at home in the garden and backyard, lest I should learn to think bad thoughts and say bad words. All in vain. In spite of the sure, sore punishments that followed like shadows, the natural inherited wildness in our blood ran true on its glorious course, as invincible and unstoppable as stars. Oh, the blessed enchantment of those Saturday runaways in the prime of spring. Those were my first excursions, the beginnings of lifelong wanderings.
I was raised on the holy ground, a running child in fields of clover. I was living in the grandeur of my father's land. Oh, by the side of the swirling seas, I spent the days of childish wonder. Those rocks I held in my young hands, I never felt them slip away. Oh, and the wind shone bright upon the waves, and the wind blew high as I was leaving. I sailed so far away, looking for adventure.
One night in 1849, when I was 10 years old, my father came in with the most wonderful, glorious news wild boys ever heard.
Bairns, you needn't learn your lessons the nicht. We're going to America in the morn.
America. We settled in the Wisconsin wilderness a few miles from the Portage, in a sunny woods overlooking a pond which Father named Fountain Lake. Great was the delight of brothers David and Daniel and myself when Father gave us a few pine boards for a boat, and it was a memorable day when we got that boat built and launched into the lake. Never shall I forget our first sail over the gradually deepening water, the sunbeams pouring through it, revealing the strange plants covering the bottom, and the fishes coming about us, staring and wondering as if the boat were a monstrous strange fish. The water was so clear that it was almost invisible, and when we floated slowly out over the plants and fishes, we seemed to be miraculously sustained in the air while silently exploring a veritable fairyland. Of the many advantages of farm life for boys, one of the greatest is the gaining of a real knowledge of animals as fellow mortals, learning to respect them and love them, and even to win some of their love. One of the second yoke of oxen we owned was a notably sagacious fellow. He seemed to reason sometimes almost like ourselves. In the fall, we fed the cattle lots of pumpkins and had to split them open so that mouthfuls could be readily broken off. But Buck never waited for us to come to his help. The others, when they were hungry and impatient, tried to break through the hard rind with their teeth, but seldom with success if the pumpkin was full grown. Buck never wasted time in this mumbling, slavering way, but crushed them with his head. He went to the pile, picked out a good one, like a boy choosing an orange or apple, rolled it down onto the open ground, deliberately kneeled in front of it, placed his broad, flat brow on top of it, brought his weight down hard, and crushed it. And quietly arose and went on his meal in comfort. Some would call this instinct, as if so-called blind instinct must necessarily make an ox stand on its head to break pumpkins when its teeth got sore, or when nobody came with an axe to split them. Another fine ox showed his skill when hungry by opening all the fences that stood in his way to the cornfields.
In 1867, while working at a carriage part shop in Indianapolis, Muir suffered a blinding eye injury that would change his life. When he regained his sight 1 month later, he resolved to turn his eyes to the fields and to the woods. There began his years of wanderlust. He walked 1,000 miles from Indianapolis to the Gulf of Mexico. He sailed to Cuba and later to Panama, where he sailed up the isthmus, landing in San Francisco in March 1868. And from that moment on, although Muir would travel the world, he resolved that California would become his home.
As I arrived on the steamer in San Francisco, a man on the wharf asked where I was bound. "Anywhere that is wild," cried. I set out again afoot, and soon came to the great Central Valley, like a flowered lake of pure sunshine. Looking eastward from the summit of Pacheco Pass one shining morning, a landscape was displayed that after all my wanderings still appears as the most beautiful I have ever beheld. At my feet lay the great Central Valley of California, level and flowery like a lake of pure sunshine, 40 or 50 miles wide, 500 miles long, one rich furred garden of yellow composita. And from the eastern boundary of this vast golden flower bed rose the mighty Sierra, miles in height, and so gloriously colored and so radiant, it seemed not clothed with light, but wholly composed of it, like the wall of some celestial city. Then it seemed to me that the Sierra should be called not the Nevada or Snowy Range, but the Range of Light. I was a new creature, born again, and truly not until this time was I fairly conscious that I was born at all. Nevermore, thought I, as I strode forward at a faster pace, will I sentimentalize about getting free from the flesh, for it is steeped like a sponge in immortal pleasure. And after 10 years of wandering, and wondering in the heart of it, rejoicing in its glorious floods of light, the white beams of the morning streaming through the passes, the noonday radiance on the crystal rocks, the flush of the alpenglow, and the irised spray of countless waterfalls, it still seems above all others the range of light.
All life woke in the soft and the green and jumped to the cricket's call, stepping aside for seeds in their time, where the leaves fell down in the fall. All life woke in the soft and the green and jumped to the cricket's call, stepping aside for seeds in their time, where the leaves fell down in the fall. Oh, life awoke, life awoke, life awoke. John, I hear you did not approve the word hike. Is that so? And his blue eyes flashed, and with a serious tone, he replied,
I don't like either the word or the thing. People ought to saunter in the mountains, not hike.
I am the fortunate one. I live with what has not been done. Is this how destiny feels? My heart and my mind, it reels. Summerling, live on to sing of the joy you found differing. How shall you surf such a world with your heart and mind unfold?
I am the fortunate one, and I live with what has not been done. Is this how destiny feels? My heart and my mind, it reads. It reads. Summerling, live on to sing of the joy you found differing. How shall you serve such a world with your heart and your mind unfurled? A voice with a weary line tried to take the joy that is mine. When the world calls me, will I learn to crawl or know to fly? I am the fortunate one. What has not been done? Is this how destiny feels? My heart and my mind, it reads. Oh, it reads.
Where did he get the courage to live alone in the wilderness like that? It's often been said that to live fully, one must first make friends with death. To live without fear, one must do this. And perhaps for the lucky few that do not fear death, far less courage is necessary.
The rugged old Norseman spoke of death as heimgang, home going. So the snow flowers go home when they melt and flow to the sea. And the rock ferns, after unrolling their fronds to the light and beautifying the rocks, roll them up close again in the autumn and blend with the soil. Myriads of rejoicing, living creatures, daily, hourly, perhaps every moment, sink into death's arms. Dust to dust, spirit to spirit, waited on, watched over, noticed only by their Maker. Each arriving at its own heaven-dealt destiny. All the merry dwellers of the trees and streams and the myriad creatures and swarms of the air, called into life by the sunbeam of a summer morning, go home through death. Wings folded perhaps in the last red rays of sunset of the day they were first tried. Trees towering in the sky, braving storms of centuries, flowers turning faces to the light for a single day or hour, having enjoyed their share of life's feast. All alike pass on and away under the law of death and love. Yet all are our brothers, and they enjoy life as we do, share heaven's blessings with us, die, and are buried in hallowed ground. Come with us out of eternity and return into eternity. Our lives are rounded with a sleep.
We'd like to share with you an account of a mountain expedition that Muir experienced with a fellow explorer on April 30th, 1875. This is excerpted from Muir's article, Snowstorm on Mount Shasta, first published in Harper's New Monthly Magazine, September 1877.
We lay on our backs so as to present as little surface as possible to the wind. The mealy snow gathered on our breasts, and I did not rise again to my feet for 17 hours. We were glad at first to see the snow drifting into the hollows of our clothing, hoping it would serve to deaden the force of the wind. But though soft at first, it soon froze into a stiff, crusty heap, rather augmenting our novel misery. The night wind rushed in wild uproar across the shattered cliffs, piercing us through and through. The weary hours wore away like a mass of unnumbered and half-forgotten years, in which all our other years and experiences were strangely interblended. The extreme beauty of the sky at times beguiled our sense of suffering. Ursa Major, with its 1,000 home associations, circled in glorious brightness overhead. The mysterious star clouds of the Milky Way arched over with marvelous distinctness, and every planet glowed with long lance rays like lilies within reach. At length, about 8 o'clock on this rare 1st of May, we rose to our feet, some 17 hours after lying down, and began to struggle homeward. Our frozen trousers could scarce be made to bend. We therefore waded the snow with difficulty. The horizontal summit ridge was fortunately wind-swept and nearly bare, so that we were not compelled to lift our feet very high. And on reaching the long home slopes laden with fresh snow, we made rapid progress, sliding and shuffling, our feebleness rather accelerating than diminishing our speed. After making a descent of 3,000 feet, we felt the warm sun on our backs and at once began to revive. And at 10 o'clock a.m., we reached camp and were safe.
Sleep now, angel, let this day be through. Let all but what you've gained from love fall and fade from view. I'll steadfast be watching over you. Sleep now, angel, sleep. Night steps softly now and grants you leave to ride the wings of truer things to all that you believe. Close your eyes on all that day perceives. Sleep now, angel, sleep.
Why should man value himself as more than a small part of the one great unit of creation? And what creatures of all that the Lord has taken the pains to make is not essential to the completeness of that unit, the cosmos? The universe would be incomplete without man, but it would also be incomplete without the smallest transmicroscopic creature that dwells beyond our conceitful eyes and knowledge. From the dust of the earth, from the common elementary fund, the Creator has made Homo sapiens. From the same material, He has made every other creature, however noxious and insignificant to us. They are earth-born companions and our fellow mortals. This star, our own good earth, made many a successful journey around the heavens ere man was made. And whole kingdoms of creatures enjoyed existence and returned to dust ere man appeared to claim them. After human beings have also played their part in creation's plan, they too may disappear without any general burning or extraordinary commotion whatever.
Crags held the dragon's eye. White trout stank from lower pools. Crystal writings dimmed upon the cliffs, with none to read at midday.
These temple destroyers, devotees of ravaging commercialism, seem to have a perfect contempt for nature. And instead of lifting their eyes to the God of the mountains, lift them to the almighty dollar. Damn Hetchy, As well dam for water takes the people's cathedrals and churches, for no holier temple has ever been consecrated by the heart of man. Most people are on the world, not in it, have no conscious sympathy or relationship to anything about them, undiffused, separate, and rigidly alone like marbles of polished stone, touching but separate.
Small things blaze too quickly for you, fall too easily. Too quickly are silent.
The battle we have fought and are still fighting for the forests is a part of the eternal conflict between right and wrong. And we cannot expect to see the end of it. So we must count on watching and striving for these trees, and should always be glad to find anything so surely good and noble to strive for.